Happy Monday, everyone. Look, I have a visitor today.
Hey everyone,
Say hi to
how are
Peggy. So if you ever want to drop in, Peggy also does individual coaching, but if you ever want to drop in and you're in Connecticut and want to sit in the room while we do one of these sessions, the more the merrier. I said, when people see you today, all of a sudden this room's going to start filling up. So if you want to come for live prospecting, Andrew, nice haircut, or you want to come in for one of these sessions, by all means. So for all of us, we're working on putting together some sort of a series of in-person events throughout the year. So lots of exciting things. So today, I'm going to re-echo the message I said all last week. You all need to get more out of me. Like more. Like I want to do more. I want to give more. I want to help you more, which means being prepared. So when we have these ask me anything sessions, you should literally be writing all of your questions, challenges, concerns, fears, doubts, worries, hallucinations, and showing up prepared with these. If you come to live prospecting, where else in the entire coaching universe can you go where a company is going to provide you any email template, any script, any handwritten note, any phone, anything that you can humanly think of to reach out to people so you can grow your business? We will provide you on the spot. So these are two simple ways, like really to get a lot out of coaching, right? And what we know is if at minimum your average sales price is $500,000, if we're able to help you get one more deal, that's like a 400% ROI on your investment into coaching. And that's easy to get. So let's kick today off. Who has a question about working with a seller? Amy. Just unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I spent a lot of time going through the seller objections about commission and going through your role play of, the difference of 1% over $1 million sale that comes to $10,000. And just like to pick it apart, like that's one, assuming that there's another agent involved. Two, assuming what the selling price is of the property that their agent has kind of given to use that $1 million scenario.
Well, I would base the first thing is I would base it on your price.
On my price. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's, devil's advocate is, the market will pay what the market will pay, regardless of that I can sell it for higher or lower.
So do you know what data point you need for this? So there's a direct correlation between commission cutters and overpricers. Like that's not the word, right? But that's really what they are. People offer less money and overprice the home. I'll give you a perfect example. I had my best friend from when I was 13 years old call me up yesterday, and he wants to move to Texas, right? So him and I were talking. He's talking about another agent, and he's a business guy. So if you're gonna call and you're gonna cold call him, show up at his house, he'll give you 15 minutes. So he's like, the guy offered me a really low commission and completely said that my house was worth way more than it is. He had people, it didn't happen. And in the end, now he's going to work with a Compass agent and use Compass Concierge, right? Now, the part is that you want to be really present in any CMA that you do of the cost of getting it wrong, right? If you think about it, homes that sold, you're going to want to know with an asterisk next to them, how many price drops it is. Like, did you know that if you price your house incorrectly, because we find that people that offer discounted commissions often do what we call buying a listing, meaning we're going to offer less and then we're going to say we can sell it for more. But here's the thing.
But that may not be the case, Chirag. That's the thing. I mean, that's an assumption, and that may not be the case. I mean, I've had a couple of situations with past clients, actually in the past 6 months, where they said to me, I'm willing to pay 5%. Like, that's it. And there's no competing agent.
So in the end, then it's a real, so the first thing I'm going to tell you is there's no way to know all of the different things, right? So you have to assume, one, you have to ask probing questions, right? And you're going to say, what is your decision-making process in choosing an agent, right? And you're going to see what they say, right? And in asking the word decision making, they'll tell you generally if they're talking to more than one person. And if somebody's going to just pay 5% and that's what it is, at some point you also have to realize it's a business decision, right? There's no magic words that I can tell you. You can use lines like when you're competing with people, like what's more important to you, the amount of money you net for the sale of your home or the amount of commission you pay somebody. Based off of that question, you can immediately tell where their mindset is.
Yeah. No, I understand all that, but there's no competing agent. They're return clients. They're working with me no matter what, but they're like, stake in the ground. I'm only going to pay 5%. Then, and I accept that, Chirag, I really do. I take the 3, we offer 2, we look at comps to see what the comps are offering. It's usually like a 50-50 split. There's a lot more 2% commissions out there now and 2.5 on the buy side. It's usually like a 50-50, but it's just kind of this, like, I never know what to do at that point. Like
Simple. You don't
mentality.
need to do anything. If it's
know.
your best client and that's what they're tied to, you based on the client, their personality and your past relationship with them, you'll know if they're willing to push, right? Like I'll use an example of somebody that we all know, Rory Gall, right? I know with Rory, it fundamentally in negotiating with working with him, what he's willing to offer is what he's willing to offer. There's no deviation with it. But I also know other people try to do things because they feel that's what's best for them. And if they don't try, they feel like they didn't do themselves justice, their families justice. So my advice to you would be just to simplify this, right? Understand and accept that you're never going to know all the different things. And then create, like in your mind, like 2 parallel talk tracks. One when there's no agents and one when there are other agents.
Yeah. Yeah, because majority of the time I'm in a situation where there are no competing agents and there's no price point. It's just like this theoretical conversation about commission.
Yes, I would ask somebody if they say 4%, right? What specifically is important to you about paying 4%? And see what they say. They'll tell you. Because when you use the word specifically, it prompts somebody's brain to give you an actual answer.
Yeah. And it's usually a difference between 5, 5.5, and 6. Like we're in that range. And
you're getting 6% in Fairfield, Connecticut. God bless you. So you're the winner of winners. Because a lot of people are still getting 4% around here and just taking 2 and 2, right? So look, in the end of the day, the difference between 5 and 6% is it's really simple. Is number one, there's no inventory here to begin with, right? So offering out 2% with a greatly marketed listing with good visuals, good prep, and 2%, the part that people don't understand is in markets that are saturated with inventory, the buyer's agent's commission really matters, right? Because it's incentive-based selling, it's like oldest tried and true thing. But when you're in a limited inventory market, as long as you want 3% on your side and you get your 3%, I wouldn't really care. I would go for 6 to give out 2.5.
Yeah. I mean, I really like to start the conversation, and I'm not even sure with the new rules and regs, if this is allowed for me to say, I take 3%. So the decision becomes, what we're going to offer out on the buy side.
Yeah, so the way that you would say this is the investment for my services is 3%, and we'll decide together in what we have to offer a buyer. Would it be okay if I walked you through the different scenarios? So we have a whole script on the 4 different scenarios, and you let them pick.
No, and I've listened to that numerous times. It's magic. I love it. It's so good.
So thank you. All right, we're going to keep going. But the thing that I think we all can learn from Amy is look at how much time that she's invested into practicing, rehearsing. No one gets great at anything by just trying it in the game, right? Like it doesn't work that way. So thank you, Amy. And I appreciate you for being a poster child for doing the work. Peggy was just talking about how much you role playing practice. So who is up next?
Oh, I can't see Peggy. I don't have my thing on. Hi, Peggy. Hi. Wait, are you in Westport?
Yes, come visit. Come next week and come join me for a session. All right.
I will.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next.
Oops. I don't know why I turned your video off. Who's next? Who's question? Cherish, you can ask any framing questions you want.
Thank you. I guess I don't really have framing questions this morning, but maybe this will come into it. There's 2 things. I'll start with one. So getting creative on commission structures on the listing side. I just had a conversation with a client, and that was one of the things that came up in their expectations of a client is one that's going to, you know, have a unique model for the commission structure. For instance, hey, if you get X%, or excuse me, X price on the home, this is the commission if you get here and whatnot. So I'm curious how to handle that, number one. And, you know, I've never been in that situation before. So perhaps asking the group body what works, what doesn't.
So here's the thing. The first thing is you don't want to just work the way that other people want you to work.
Okay.
Right. So if they want this crazy commission-based scenario, and that's not the way that your business works, the answer simply is no, right? So pretty much what they're saying to you is, if you sell at this price, you can get this commission. If you're willing to sell it for more, you can get more. So you can know the market, right? So if it's a house that you know is going to get bid up, this could work really well for you.
Totally. We're in a limited inventory market. It's something that could happen. I'm not opposed to trying it though. I guess that's where I come in with like
So
curiosity.
what do you normally charge people?
3.2 on the listing side.
Great. So you're going to say my base compensation is 3.2.
Mhm.
If I get under this price, I'm willing to take 2.5. If I get over this price, I want 4%, right? And then we'll choose what we give a buyer together.
Okay. That's
So there's an
straightforward.
incentive. Yeah, there's an incentive if you go below a certain number, right?
Yeah.
And there's an incentive if you go above the number. Now, if they only want it below, be like, it has to work both ways, or we can just do a flat commission.
No, they're open to the if you get it above X. I think more than anything, they just want to see that an agent is willing to participate in the
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
And listen, be like, look, I'll put my money where my mouth is. Like, if I overperform, you can do
You overperform too.
exactly. There's an increased incentive, right? If I underperform, then I'm in this with you. Either way, I want you to know that our goal is to maximize the equity of your home.
Okay.
But you have to let the buyer's agent know upfront. That has to be in your listing agreement. I mean, in the.
What you get
MLS.
paid.
What you're willing to pay them as co-broke.
So I
you have
would
to
not do
determine
this. So on the buyer's end with all of these things, right? I would not get creative on the buyer's end of all this, right?
Correct.
That is just a mess waiting to happen.
Totally. I understand that. It's only the commission they're paying me that we would have this conversation about.
Yeah, try it.
Yeah.
All right, that was
Cool.
one. You had two different points.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to value propositions, honestly, and just understand if I'm thinking about them correctly. This is a question that folks in the Thursday role play group is also having. And so want to either get your take on it or maybe walk through some scenarios. I'm not sure what would be
Well,
most
value
useful.
proposition CCD, is it clear what you're offering? Is it concise and specific what they get? And in the way it's communicated, does the other person understand what they're getting from you, right? So
Yeah.
if there's, I'll use our platform, right? If we have all of this stuff, that's my perceived value of what I can offer to all of you individually as agents, right? But if it's not clearly communicated, it's not concise and specific what you get, you don't even understand how to use it, where to find it, it's not made easy for you, there's no value given to it. So a value proposition is clearly communicating your written marketing plan and your written communication plan, right?
Sure, but aren't there other values?
All
to
right,
be-
you're selling your house, price, marketing, and communication. What else is, if you're selling your home, does someone really care about?
I mean, I guess maybe this is where the overthinking is happening. Yes, that's on the sell side. But for instance, if somebody comes through and they're like, hey, we want a neighborhood expert, right? Does that come back to, what is it? You said price, communication, and marketing?
Yeah, it does. When they say they want a neighborhood expert, I would turn around and say, what specifically is important to you about a neighborhood expert? And I would see what they say, and they would say, great. So we'll make sure to touch on that as part of our written marketing plan. Right. So ultimately, when you want to isolate the neighborhood objection one, I would say, what is most important to you? Finding somebody who only sells homes in this neighborhood, or finding someone that has a robust marketing plan that can get you people from multiple neighborhoods, ultimately to get you the best price?
Mm-hmm.
And some people might say, I only want someone that sells in this neighborhood. Okay, great. That's not me, and I could just move on.
Okay. And on the buyer side, what are the three most important things that every buyer cares about?
So a buyer wants, number one, they want someone that has, communication is always important, right? The most important thing to a buyer is also access to off-market properties.
Okay.
Right. And the other one is, every buyer should value an agent that has a strategy and a plan. And if they don't value those things, they're never going to value you. Like, if you think about this logically, think about all the planning that goes into setting up a vacation and a trip and a vacation planner and all the details. So if you're going to do something like that for a vacation, or if you plan a party, how much all of those details matter. So my question is if you do that in planning an event, planning a birthday party for your kids, going on a vacation, why would you not want or value that when you're about to spend the most money you've ever spent in your life on something?
Okay. That's a little bit of a frame.
Exactly. But that's what this comes down to, right? Everyone. So the question is for a buyer is, what do you feel an agent can do for you? It's like, what would you like an agent to do for you that you feel you can't do on your own? And then they're going to tell you, and that's what they value.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And is there a point in time, I mean, it feels like in some instance, you're also repositioning what you offer to the values that are most important to the client, right? That's the whole
Yep.
point in asking these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like, yes, you're acknowledging what they want and what they value, but also in the framework of what's most important, the three identified things, right?
You're
Communication,
stripping
strategy.
down all of these things, right? So I'll give you an example. I'll use my friend for an example on the last one. I'll use him again. I know that all he cares about, like, he's moving to Texas. He's a bunch of equity in his house. I know him. He's gonna want every dollar that he humanly could get. But I also know that even though we're best friends, he's objectively going to figure out what's best for him. I was like, did you know that Compass can front you $25,000 to redo your kitchen and your master bath? So you get more money. But he said, I get that for free. I'm like, yeah, you can get that for free. He's like, all right, done. Give me your friend's number. I'm in. But now if he had 2 dogs, several small kids, and he's looking to move and buy a house, you think anyone that's living like that has any interest in redoing and gutting out a kitchen? No way.
Mm-mm.
No way. So the first part is you need to know what you offer, right? And how to communicate it. The second part is then knowing how to ask it and strip it down. And that's what makes somebody a great salesperson. Which is you.
Getting there.
You're practicing, so you're doing. Look, you got to remember something. Incrementally, people that do things get better every day. So Kobe Bryant went from 12 to 14. He went from being like the worst player in his league and not scoring 1 point for the entire summer to being the best person in the state. And he goes, look, the average kid practices 30 minutes a few times a week, but there's no consistency. So he's like, I'm practicing 2 hours a day, and over the course of 2 years, I became the best player in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing for all of you. Nobody's practicing anything, nothing. Like I'm telling you, there's a saying that my dad taught me in Gujarati, which is their native language, that in the end, when it happens, it's going to hurt so bad you don't know how to cry. These copycat lawsuits keep coming. The Department of Justice all of a sudden feels that they could tell private citizens that own homes what incentives they can offer people or not. There's a saying in life, nothing's a problem until it's a problem. This will be a problem, like all the writings on the wall. So for all of us, you have access to all the materials, all the scripts, a community full of people. And when this thing really hits and it becomes a norm, you guys are going to have the largest cash grab that's ever humanly been available to an agent, because nobody can communicate this stuff. I work with teams that do hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm very confident I could put a lot of you in a room with them, and the way that you present would like smoke them, right? But it's not something that they've ever really had to spend time doing. But they will. Promise you that. My trend setting and my crystal ball has a very high success probability. So thank you, Cherish.
Thank
And I
you.
will be joining your accountability session this week. Or the
Awesome.
14th.
I
Yep,
think the 14th.
14. I'm in.
Thank you.
All right, all right, so Abby had a question here. Let's see. Can you review how to present buyer offers to sellers? Abby, where are you? I need some more context here. Where is Abby Joseph?
Hi, sorry, I'm not showing my picture because I just worked out and my hair's crazy.
But you're here, that's what matters.
No, you were talking to the previous broker and you said, when you're talking to the seller, you say, okay,
Oh, okay, so how do you present the buyer's agent's commission?
yeah, you did it in a great way. You said, okay, I'm 3% for this reason.
The investment for my services is 3%, and we'll work together to see what you feel is best to offer a buyer's agent. So there's 4 distinct scenarios, right? And so when you're presenting in this way, you're going to want to print out all of the homes that are competing with them, right? And highlight in yellow what the buyer's agent's commissions are, right? So that's what you have prepared in your hand. Now, I would say, Abby, the first thing is you actually don't have to offer a buyer anything. And that's your choice. Now, look at the competition, right? This home is offering 2, this is offering 2.5, this is offering 3. So let me ask you a question. If you were purchasing a home, which you're going to be doing after this, correct? I'm just going to say, yeah. And if you had to come out of pocket approximately, if it's $1 million, 20,000, 30,000, whatever the numbers are, would that impact your decision to view the home or not? And see what they say. If they say, no, it wouldn't, okay, great. And for some it may, and some it may not, but like it's a specific question, but there's a chance that it could. Would you agree? Yes. Then the next one is, in the first scenario, the buyer would have to show up and pay their own agent a full commission on whatever they agree upon. The second thing is you can offer a flat fee. And it's a very similar thing to the first one. You can offer out a flat blanket commission, and based upon the agreement the agent has with their client, they'd have to make up the difference. Now, would this impact your ability to want to come and see this house or not? And the third one is we can offer out what we generally do is we invest, it's 3% for the investment or services, and we offer out 2.5% as a sales incentive for a buyer's agent. Did you know, based on some of the industry changes, more and more buyers, agents are having compensation agreements with their clients? They're going to say they knew or they didn't know. And the last one is, regardless of the 3 that we do, based on the agreement that the agent has with their client, they're going to build the offer. They're going to build the buyer's agent's commission into the offer. So out of those 4 scenarios, which one do you think works best for you?
Okay, that's great, but that needs practice.
100%. You're dealing with something you've never had to deal with before. I
So,
would practice that over and over and over again.
yeah,
Because
there's a lot of.
more confidence you can say this with, the
Mhm.
more likely they are to be able to take advantage of it. And the second part is the less attached you are through practicing, the more likely they are to give you what you want.
Right.
And don't ever lose a listing fighting for a buyer's agent's commission.
Right. So my last 2 listing presentations, which I did get, I started that conversation, not as good as this, but I said, okay, so what would you like to offer the buyer's commission? And they all were like, oh yeah, 2.5%. Like they didn't even blink an eye, even though they knew they had options. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Because-
and here's the interesting thing, and this is why the Department of Justice, I know I need a better hobby than reading court transcripts, but what the Department of Justice says is, even though like it's crazy, there's a plaintiff, there's a defendant, there's a plaintiff's attorney and a defendant's attorney. All 4 of these parties have agreed upon a settlement. Now, the Department of Justice says, even though these settlements has happened, nothing has changed. Well, did you ever think that people don't care and that this works for everybody? But what they're saying is it still does not create free trade and a open market for competition. Right. So my thought process in this is you can start off by what would you like to offer a buyer's agent?
Mhm.
If they just give you an answer, great, then you don't have to do the whole script, right? The conversation's done, right?
Right.
Then if they say, oh, I'm not really sure, like, hey, would it be okay if we went through the 4 different scenarios?
Mhm.
Hey,
Okay.
Chirag,
Thank
it's Elkin. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit, where when we give the seller so many options, right? And obviously we have to convey the protocol, right? The correct protocol and how it's up to them to make the decision, right? However, I think it's important that us as agents on the listing side still push for the buyer side, right? Because we're going to find ourselves on the buyer side, either 50% of the time or more or less or whatever. And I think that for us to say, give them so many options versus just saying, look, what I recommend is that you pay an equal amount or slightly less to the buyer's side as part of your marketing, or what did you just call it, sales incentive. But if you say, if you just kind of put it in their head, right, that pay them whatever you want. And what if they say, once they say, well, let's do 1%, right? Then this is my opinion. Then personally, I would feel like now I have to kind of backpedal and push for more,
Well,
right?
but here's the thing, the agreements are for 6 months, right? And in the end of the day, if a property's priced well and has great photography, good staging and everything else, and 90+% of buyers are looking online, someone's going to go look at the house, right? It is a buyer's agent's job to have a compensation agreement with their client, right? And you're going to say, and you're going to turn it around and not be attached to the outcome. The more you push in a direction, the more they're going to push back, right? And you're going to say, look, like at some point they'll ask you, like, what do you think? You're going to say, look, this is the way that we've been doing business, and most agents have been doing business. As you could see, all of the homes you're competing with all have a sales incentive offered to a buyer's agent. I wouldn't call it a buyer's agent's commission. I'd call it a sales incentive, right? This is an incentive for somebody to come sell your house. That's essentially what it is. And if they feel that they want to only offer 1%, they would have said that to you anyway most of the time. The statistical probability, especially in New York City with smart, savvy people, that a question like that influencing person to do less is not very high, right? You have to play the numbers, right? And it doesn't matter if you're on the buy side. This is not like a karma thing that you're doing, because at the end of the day, what I would hate to happen is if you push for a buyer's agent's commission and you could have got your commission on the list side and it was a great property, it would have sold relatively quickly. They would have been willing to price it well and take your recommendations. In the end, the only one that loses is you.
I agree. I just feel that, and I totally agree with what you're saying. I just feel that as an industry, right? And obviously we can't use the word standard, and we can't, collude to encourage anyone to pay X, but we want, personally, and again, that's just me. I feel like I want to do my job to keep, encouraging sellers to compensate equally or slightly less than equally of what
But this is the whole basis of
right?
this lawsuit, is what you're saying.
I agree. And again, this is
That's why, like in
opinion.
general, right? I'll be devil's advocate to you. This is my home, right? I choose to hire an agent. The relationship that I'm looking for the agent is one based on my goals, my expectations, my motivations, expectations, disappointments, concerns, all of those things, right? So it's either you want to engage with that client on their terms or they're not the right client for you. I have agents that work in marketplaces. They're like, yeah, we'll give you your listing, we'll price and everything. And the agents turn around and be like, I'm sorry. Like, if I offer out no compensation, that's not the reputation I have. And I've always done business this way. And if you don't want to offer out compensation, then I'm not the right agent for you. That's 100% okay. Right. But like pushing people into doing things because this is what we feel is like an industry, like just that's like, just try to open your mind into like the fair trade world, right? Like people should be able to negotiate commissions the same way they can negotiate offers, right? And in the end, it's up to the other party if they want to accept your recommendation or not. You have every right to say that properties that have sales incentives generally sell better than ones that don't, right? So that would be my ultimate advice. We get stuck in a rabbit hole of this for a while, but my advice to everybody, take it, don't take it. Listen, always helping people come to the conclusion that you want them to come through asking great questions and positioning things, right? Like, Elkin, the $1 million question is, if you had to pay $30,000 to see a property and buy a home where the other ones that were similar, you didn't, would it affect and influence your ability to choose to see that home? Most people are going to say yes. And the people that say no, there's nothing you can tell them to change their mind.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, a couple more questions. Listing appointment where they do not want to list for several months, 9 to 12, most effective way to say checking in and communicating with them. I would sit down with them, Sarah, and be like, let's make a 9-month plan. Right? Where each month, let's get one small thing done. I'm the project manager. So, you know, once a month or bi-weekly, we'll just check in to make sure things are going. We could work on building rapport. We could strategize, and I would make them like 9 different things they have to do. Be like, this is amazing. Normally people have to rush this into 2 weeks. We have 9 weeks, 9 months to do it. And I break it up.
I like that.
Hillary, what is your question? Hillary Thomas. For any of the sales commissions wordings, talk to your sales manager. Because every state has different state and local laws. So we're a couple minutes over. At 12:30, all of you please come back for live prospecting. We want to
Thank you, Chirag.
Thank you. It's always love in my heart. I love you all. Who here likes these Ask Me Anything sessions? I love these sessions, right? I think they're so helpful.
I do. I love, love, love.
Look, like in the end of the day, this is not a theoretical business, right? There's like actual things that happen. And the only reason I can answer all these questions is because I sold real estate for 14 years. So the same things that you're experiencing, I always say, unless you sat in the room and dealt with a human doing this, you have no idea what it's really like. And then you add in the factors of your business might be going great, your business might be going great, it might not be going great, and you might have some credit card debt or tax. Like there's so many different things that go into this, but this is why practicing, like, you know, the example I always use is in the Super Bowl. Like Patrick Mahomes ran for 20 yards and like I paused the screen and went back. I said to my son, you see the look in his eye? That is a guy that's completely comfortable being down with the Super Bowl on the line, driving down the field because he's practiced so many times. He thrives in that situation. So I want all of you to be comfortable in these situations. So when they come up, you're like this, got them. Because if they're asking you that question and they're interviewing somebody else, they're asking somebody else and they're not well polished or rehearsed. Most people, their tonality changes, their body language changes, and they become defensive and combative. So I will see you all back here at 12:30. Bye, everybody.